What just happened? I'm Dan. That's Julia. That's Bagface. And today we're talking episode 6 of Constellation called Paul is Dead. I don't know about you guys, but this is the episode to me that makes me want to go back and rewatch the entire thing because wow,
Yep.
they tied everything together. You saw certain scenes play out in, different realities, and you saw certain scenes play out that we saw before, and then we saw from a different perspective in this episode. Really
Yeah.
cool stuff, really
It
cool.
was very cool.
I think everyone that watches this should immediately go watch our theory video. I'll post it for the end of this. Let's kick off the recap. We see Paul day of the experiment. He's messing around with Cal. We see Alice on FaceTime with Joe, just like we knew all that happened before. And then we see things go completely differently. We see Joe lose control and she kind of like splits. You see herself like
That was
split from
wild.
herself, right? You notice
That
that?
was cool.
And this version of Joe brutally dies. Her
Oof. Oh
her
my
face
God. Ugh.
smashes against a side there.
Her whole eyeball got sucked out. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. But like, so she swapped with the other Joe right there because the Joe we know has all of the memories of the Joe that was in that scene
Right.
when she was talking to her daughter in Swedish on the iPad. So that's when it swapped. So the version that died is the version of the world we're living in from all the previous episodes. That's
Yeah.
the version of
So
Joe
I
that
would
died.
assume it would have been the same with Paul, right?
It is the same with Paul because of what
Yeah.
happens with him saying his wife's name wrong and other things we find
Well,
out
yeah, but
later in
I
the
mean like
episode.
that, like when he died would have been the moment that that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So really cool. That scene was insane. There was a fatality with Joe though. That was pretty
Yeah, they
intense.
did her dirty.
Yeah. Just smashed up against the glass. Then we get the scene of Magnus telling Alice that her mother has died. She doesn't take this well. She doesn't seem to believe it the entire episode. Paul says to tell Henry they lost Cal, and all the astronauts are like, "What the hell are you talking about?"
The cow. We lost it.
For what?
Audrey, we need to pass that on to RPL. Henry Caldera.
Paul, I don't know which experiment you mean.
Who's Henry? What's Cal? So like that was the first
Oh,
moment where I was like, all right, what's going on? Backface got anything with this? Did this blow your mind like it did to me?
Yeah, I thought it was like I wrote it down initially because I couldn't remember if the other astronauts knew about the Cal experiment in the world we've been watching.
Yes.
So I don't know if they mention it at all. So I was like, wait. Like, did no one know about the Cal experiment going on? And it's just happening in like both. It was such a mind melting episode. I think I know what's going on, but we can talk about it later.
When do you want to get to it? Is there a certain
Uh,
point in the episode?
yeah, like towards the end, I kind of realized what's going on with Henry and Bud.
okay.
Okay.
I
All
think I
right.
know too, but I want to hear what you say because I don't know if
Okay.
we're thinking the same thing. Okay.
So stay tuned, dear listener, and you'll hear us talking about that. So Paul is recording stuff, and then he starts to hear a recording of Joe.
This is the third. God, we need to hurry up.
And then he hears her breathing, and then he sees a flash of her alive. So like I wrote down, please help. What the fuck is happening right now? Like he's just jumping through different realities. Is that what's happening? And he's seeing
They're
different versions of different events
both
going on
both versions of them are seeing the other version happening at the same time.
at the same
Yeah,
exact time in the same moment.
Yes.
because she grabs his hand and then it's the
It's
severed
yeah,
hand.
like as
Yeah.
she's grabbing his hand when like in the last time that we saw it, that's when he's like letting go of her hand in this scene.
Joe, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
So they're both like both living versions of them are witnessing both versions of that timeline.
So cool. Love it. And then, Paul's freaked out. He doesn't want to go back with Joe, so he kind of makes an excuse. It's kind of a valid excuse, but he's really just freaked out that he's hearing things, so he wants to leave her
Honestly,
behind.
I feel like that was kind of fucked up.
Yeah, it was. So, he leaves her behind. He starts to head back to Earth, and then he sees Joe looking at him through the ship. So, I don't know what was going on with that scene, but maybe we'll get to it later. Paul's welcomed home. He calls his wife Frida, but her name is Erica.
I love you so much, Frida.
I love you too. Erica is my name.
So he swapped universes, right? Where his wife has a different name in this universe. Then they start to bend universes together when he's putting a rose down for Joe, and he sees Joe putting a rose down for Paul. So that was a scene that we saw in an earlier episode from Joe's point of view, and now we get it from Paul's point of view. And they did that a couple times this episode, so I really like that. And then they're all sitting at a table, and he looks over and he sees a shrine for himself as if he died. So he's really going through it this episode. And I'll tell you what,
Imagine.
the actor who played Paul crushed it. He did
Oh, he was
Phenomenal.
fantastic.
Yeah.
such a good job. He was really good this episode because this was
Yeah.
really, I mean, it was called Paul is Dead. It was a really Paul-centric episode, and he really carried the weight of feeling how he must be feeling of what is going on. Why is nothing
Yeah.
as it seems?
Confusion, the guilt, the
Yeah.
the anger.
He
You
like
could feel
essentially
it.
he essentially plays the audience in this episode, which like has kind of been missing because
Yeah.
you're just
Yeah.
watching all these characters, and it's finally an episode where he's like as frustrated as the viewer in like finding the answers.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really, oh yeah. I never expected him to be such a good actor too, just because of the
Right.
small role he played in the first episode.
Right,
You
right,
think
right.
he was-
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, he's really good.
Came out of nowhere and just crushed it.
Probably my favorite episode. He was so good. This was my favorite episode for multiple reasons, just because they kept showing different versions of different events. Just like one just happens when I'm about to talk about, we see the scene of Alice stepping on her own rabbit, and in an earlier episode, she thought it was her friend stepping on the rabbit. But she's really seeing herself do it in a different reality. So that was really cool. And now Paul goes to talk to someone in charge, and he's like talking about Cal, and they're like, hey, Cal was abandoned 12 years ago. What are you talking about, dude?
The man who built the cow.
Nobody built this machine. Paul, for Christ's sake, there is no machine.
Honestly, I was trying to place the timeline of like when like Apollo 18 was, but it had to have been more than 12 years ago because it would have been like 70s, 80s, I think. So I was kind of trying to think of what in the show canonically that we've heard of that would have been like an event 12 years ago if they would have had the other Cal experimenting on itself, or like the experiment 12 years ago, but I can't come up with anything. I don't know if anything's been mentioned. Maybe the angels in space. I think I know what's going on.
Okay.
I want to hear it.
You want to hear it? Okay. So they lay it out like pretty openly. I'm pretty sure Bud's name is Henry, and he chooses to go by Bud because in his reality on Apollo 18, he did everything to save the crew and he fixed the ship. And then in some way he got swapped with the other Henry who didn't fix the ship, and everybody dies. So like he holds a huge grudge against the other Henry.
2 men died. Ted Larson. Nobody died. It was repaired by you.
Because he didn't fix the ship, and he switches to a timeline where he's not a hero. And that's kind of why Bud is Bud. And he's so angry and like full of grief and living in a shitty apartment, as Paul says.
And you tell me why you're in this piece of shit apartment.
Is because he's the actual hero who saved everyone, but he swapped lives with the guy who messed it up and killed everybody.
And it just explains why he's so damn like deep-rooted bitter. You know what I mean?
And why he would get mad if someone called him Henry, because he would see Henry as like the guy who failed.
Is the Bud that we saw in this episode the Bud that we've seen in previous episodes?
Yes.
It's the same one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the same one.
Okay.
It makes sense why he would make Henry pee his pants now too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's the one that's communicating with Henry. This is this Bud.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So Paul's completely losing it at this point, as am I. He tells his daughter to check in on Alice. You know, they're having to wait for Joe. We saw this scene play out in a different aspect earlier when the other Alice walked in on it, but we see the other side to it. Paul admits to his wife that he was so scared, so he made an excuse to leave without Joe. So like Jules said earlier, he's feeling tremendous guilt along with everything else that is going on. And the actor portraying him is really doing a great job portraying all of these emotions at once.
Can I just say, I think my favorite part of this episode is when he looks at his daughter and he goes, she just lost her mom. Don't be an asshole.
She just lost her mother, Wendy. Don't be an asshole.
Literally have that written down. Paul tells
Loved
his
it.
daughter, "Don't be an
Loved
asshole."
it.
Laughing my ass off. Yeah. And Sasha, she hasn't been watching the show, but she watched this episode with me. She
Yeah.
cracked up during that line.
It was great. It was
Don't
perfect.
be tell your daughter, don't be an asshole. And then Alice and Paul both see Alice and Joe from the earlier episode. Paul faints, and we see it play out from this perspective. And this Alice in this universe starts freaking out, and she decides she wants to go to the cabin. Magnus wants to go somewhere nice, like warm weather, but he agrees, okay, we'll go to the cabin. So Paul's wife is told he has high altitude psychosis and that Paul will need to go away once they find him. We don't know where he is right now.
It's called high altitude psychosis. Look, we have ways of successfully treating it.
And then we get to Magnus and Alice. They're blocked off just like they were in the scene we saw in a different episode when they decided to drive across the lake. Magnus doesn't want to drive across the lake, so their only option is to go to a hotel somewhere or to walk. And Alice isn't having any other way. She's like, we're walking. She goes, gets her stuff, starts to walk to the cabin. And then we see for a quick moment, Paul goes to see Bud. We'll get back to that in just a second. Magnus and Alice get to the cabin. Alice says, we will see her again. Magnus says, no, I'm sorry, you're stuck with me.
We're not going to see Mama again. We're not ever. She's dead. We have to start again from here.
We see the painting again. Anything on that? Anything on the painting in this episode that you guys picked up on?
Yeah, Alice calls it a changeling, which I think is more of a hint, less to like what we were talking about in the last theory with Vex, that it's like a devil. I think it's more supposed to be like a shapeshifter or changer in some way.
It's a changeling.
Those paintings always freak me out a bit.
They are spooky. I like them.
Okay.
Which is like hinting at everyone else kind of swapping bodies and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I forgot to mention though, the car is red, by the way.
Yep.
When they get out of the car and
I did
decide to
notice
walk,
that.
we see it's red. So then Paul gets to Bud's. He calls him Henry, and it pisses him off.
Wait, Henry, listen. Henry? I don't use that name. My name's not Henry. You trained me at NASA.
Two men died to Bud, but nobody died to Paul. So like you said earlier, he got swapped with the version where he's not the hero. So that's why he doesn't want to be known as Henry. Makes sense. I get it. They get into a heated argument. He says, tell me why you are here. Bud says,
You tell me. Why the fuck are you here?
does he shoot at Paul? Do you think he kills him?
I don't think he kills
I don't
him.
think so.
I think he might. He probably like shot at him to scare him, but I don't think he would. And maybe he shoots him like in the leg or something, but I don't think he would fatally shoot him.
I hope not, because I would love to see.
Paul's too important to the story right now, I feel like.
Definitely. And I would love to see more from William Catlett, who plays Paul Lancaster, because that guy is brilliant. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's great.
Really great. Okay, so the closing shot, Alice wakes up and she sees Joe pull up in a blue car. So is this when Alice and Joe pull up to the cabin that we saw earlier? Is that what we're seeing from Alice's point of view? And it's kind of merging together. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So like that scene that was the end of last episode when she was called out screaming mama, that's going to happen soon in this reality because she just saw her pull up to the cabin in the blue car.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Oh yeah.
I went through that kind of fast. Anything I missed? Anything you guys want to talk about? Floor is yours.
I don't think you missed anything at all.
I don't think you did either.
Okay.
My only thing was just like, I think I get it now. There's two realities. We're watching the perspective of the second reality because it lines up with everything that happened in the last episodes, like 1 through 5. It all kind of matches up pretty seamlessly to like where Alice is slipping. You kind of get the other perspective of that throughout the entire episode.
I was just gonna say, like, I don't think that we've consistently been watching from the same perspective the entire time.
You don't think?
I think they've been flipping back and forth, and I think now is when they're starting to like overlap.
Oh yeah, I guess like for the Henry and Bud stuff, we've been watching back and forth for sure. Yeah. I also think that we haven't all this stuff with Paul happens prior to when we see Bud ditch his pills off of the side of the boat. So we're not. I don't think we're caught up in the timeline as of yet.
Oh.
with Bud. We're not caught
Yeah.
up.
Right.
Okay.
Because he
Yeah.
tells him
All
to
right.
take his damn pills.
You take your fucking pills.
No, fuck taking my pills. Tell me what happened.
Yes,
Like,
he
I'm
does.
not taking my pills. Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
All right. So see, that's where I was thinking maybe it was the third reality. But okay, I'm with you. I'm on your side. Just two realities. That's fine. And we're just not up to that point yet. Okay, I get it. What do you guys think? Do you want another theory video? I would love to do one. So let us know in the comments what you're thinking. What did you love about this episode? I think this episode was fantastic. Again, shout out to William Catlett. That's his name, right? Yeah, William Catlett. Shout out who plays Paul Lancaster. Wow, phenomenal job. Loved it. Can't wait to see next week. And we have 2 episodes left. That's it.
Ooh.
Sad.
That's it.
It's all coming together pretty quick, though. I'm
It
impressed.
It
It is. Yeah. So that'll pretty much do it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Later.
Bye, guys.
Commander Cardera?
I prefer Bud.
Erica, Frida is my name.
What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened? That just happened.